Seeing none, we're now at the place where we will open our podium up for those who wish to address the council. And let me just say that I think we have a large number of folks here on the same issue. And so we're going to allow 3 separate speakers for the Occupy Chattanooga. And you will have a time frame of 3 minutes to talk with the council. And I'm going to ask the council, let's allow these 3 speakers to flow through before we ask questions or make comments. Let's let all 3 speakers have their time up here at the podium. I know that this is, we've got some real passionate ideas and real emotions invested in a lot of the discussion that we've had recently. So I'm going to ask the audience to remain very quiet during anyone's speech, no clapping or outbursts. Let's let everybody get their speech so we can hear it well up here on the council. And then we'll entertain. I do have a mic that I'll recognize. Councilwoman Robinson, you wish to be recognized at this point.
Thank you. I'd like to, first of all, say to the people in the audience, thank you so much for coming. You know, I think that a lot of us old timers look back and we know, you know, the right of assembly is certainly one of the foundations upon which our country was founded. And
Okay. That's exactly what I asked you not to do. Thank you.
please, just let me have my say, because what I'm going to ask, I don't think you'll applaud, but I do want you to think about it in the spirit in which I suggest this. Please don't ask your city council to allow you to violate an ordinance that we passed in 2007 to close our parks. It was an evening curfew that we passed so that parks would be closed at 10:30 at night. And there's some old timers up here that were around when that ordinance was passed, and I hate to have to say it, but we had good reason to pass it. We had violence in the parks at night, we had some gang activity, we had some guns, we had bad stuff happening. And there were a lot of us on the council at the time that didn't want to limit access, but we had to, because of the greater good of all the people in our city. And there are thousands and thousands of you who use the park all the time, and we do believe it is safe, and we're so grateful and thankful that we do have a good, safe place to go now, a good, safe place for you and for our kids and for our grandkids. That's the reason that law was passed. And I'm asking you, please don't ask us to allow you to break that law, to violate it. We've got a wonderful group here. You have great energy. You're focused. You're finding your voice. It's a great thing in the United States to see so many people that are willing to stand up. So please do occupy. But please come in the morning. Stay all day long and protest, make your points known. Please take ownership of that place. But by 10:30 at night, please uphold the law that we've got on our books if you understand why. Maybe it'll help you. You can come every single day, all day long, every day. Get your voices and make your points, but do it during those times. And please, I'll say again, don't ask the city to give you special permission to violate an ordinance that we passed, the city council passed in the year 2007 for very, very good reasons.
Okay, we're going to allow our city council, our city attorney to do a short presentation, and then we'll invite 3 speakers up from the group Occupy Chattanooga. Following that, any of the public that would like to address the council on any other issues would be allowed to do so.
Okay. First, I'd like to go over the general rules for anyone wishing to address the council, not only from the Occupy groups, but there are probably others here who might want to address the council. Here are the rules the council follows. Each speaker wishing to address the council shall be recognized only at the microphone to my left. The speaker should address the council only upon matters within their legislative or quasi-judicial authority. The speaker should limit his or her remarks to 3 minutes unless additional time is granted by the council. The speaker should not use any vulgar or obscene language. The use of the floor by persons addressing the council should not be used to personally attack or personally denigrate others, and the chair shall not recognize anyone who has spoken more than twice within the last 30 days. Having said that, we know that a lot of you are here tonight on the Occupy Chattanooga or Occupy Wall Street. I'm not sure exactly how you call yourselves, but it doesn't make any difference. We understand that you are here to exercise, or that you plan to exercise your First Amendment rights under the Constitution, and that you plan to peacefully assemble, as is recognized by the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. That's what our forefathers fought for back in the 1800s or 1700s. We in Chattanooga have adopted an ordinance to regulate the use of our parks. And a major portion of that ordinance is based upon a U.S. Supreme Court case called Thomas versus the Chicago Parks District. In other words, you all are not the first people who have thought that it's a useful thing to use the parks to express your First Amendment rights. And so the court in that case gave guidance to cities around the country about what proper regulations would be for parks. We recognize that our parks are public forums where people should be allowed to gather and express their First Amendment rights. However, as approved in that Chicago case, we have adopted certain restrictions to protect other members of the public, to ensure that other members of the public who are not associated with your group have a right to also equal access to that park, to ensure that you do not go someplace that's already been reserved by another group. And that may be a case this weekend. So we've adopted regulations consistent with that United States Supreme Court case, which we believe are entirely lawful. One of the rules of the First Amendment is that cities are not allowed to regulate what you say. In other words, you could be for something, against something. You could be against, you could advocate changing the whole form of government in the United States, and you have a right to do that. But the courts do allow us to do what they call time, manner, and place restrictions. Now, Mrs. Robinson's mentioned to you one of those restrictions, the time restriction. As she told you, we have very valid reasons for closing our parks at 10:30 p.m. Some of our parks are actually closed at dusk, but the main downtown parks are closed at 10 p.m. Now, I know that some of you have indicated that you plan to camp out on our parks. I would implore you not to do so. I'm going to ask Mr. Burns to put up on the screen for our mutual benefit a copy of the United States Supreme Court decision in the case of Clark versus Community for Creative Nonviolence. The case was decided in 1984, and it involved the use of one of the parks near the White House. And have you got it up, Randy?
Yes.
Okay, you can see on page 2 that sleeping is not really considered expressive conduct, or even if it is, that there can be valid regulations to keep people from sleeping in the parks. Slide on down the screen a little bit, Randy, to the next yellow markings. So the National Park Service, like Chattanooga, adopted reasonable time, manner, and place restrictions to prevent people from sleeping in certain areas of the parks. Going down the page a little bit, Randy. And so we're not trying to regulate what you say in the park, we're just trying to regulate when you say it. And in that regard, say it between daylight and 10:30 p.m. and please do not try to sleep in our parks. It is my understanding, I've had conversations with the police department today. They are intending to enforce the 10:30 p.m. restriction about leaving the park. So please follow us along with that regard. I'm not trying to be threatening, but it's my responsibility as city attorney to file a lawsuit if that restriction is violated. Because there is a duty for our government, in the event they are suppressing someone else's speech, to go to a court and say, dear Mr. Court, or dear Mr. Judge, or dear Mrs. Judge, or Miss Judge, are we properly applying the law under these circumstances? So we would ask the court, are we the city of Chattanooga doing this the way you're supposed to? Are we the city of Chattanooga following the Constitution of the United States? If not, please tell us so. If we are, please tell you other folks to do what you're supposed to and follow the law. So That's not a threat. That's just our duty and that's our responsibility. So with that said, Madam Chair, would you recognize the people who want to speak on this issue?
Yes, if there are someone that would like to speak to this, if there is someone who would like to speak to this, we will have 3 people. If you'll come forward now so we know how many we have. We'll need your name, your address, and you will be allowed 3 minutes, and we appreciate it. Come right on forward.
Hello, my name is Miles Doherty. My address is here in Chattanooga. Distinguished councilors, ever since in this September when the Occupy Wall Street movement first began occupying Lower Manhattan to express their outrage at the injustices perpetrated by what they saw as persistent favoritism on behalf of government towards corporate banking and finance, citizens across the country of the United States have assembled in their own communities in the public and semi-public spaces in order to express their dissent and solidarity. In doing so, they have been exercising their First Amendment rights to peaceably assemble and to petition their government for redress of grievances, rights which cannot be superseded by any federal, state, or local law or statute. Recognizing this, last month the City Council of Los Angeles passed a resolution supporting the protesters and condemning irresponsible banking practices. Likewise, the City Council and Mayor of Irvine, California, passed a resolution supporting occupation in their community. Here in Tennessee, there have also been support of public officials. In Nashville, Night Court Magistrate Thomas Nelson has repeatedly refused to uphold arrest warrants against occupiers there under a curfew instituted by the governor. And I'm very pleased to suggest that yesterday the State Attorney General declined to defend that curfew in state court. Likewise, Representative Mike Stewart has spoken out about the injustices of opposing these assemblies and the freedom of speech. And all of these public officials and communities who have supported these occupations have received widespread support and respect and praise across the country from those who support people's freedom of speech and civic rights. However, every community has not been so supportive, as I'm sure you know. In the city of Oakland, California, police attacks using tear gas and flashbang grenades left Marine veteran Scott Olson in a coma and now brain damaged and unable to speak. Likewise, in the city of Denver, police dispersed rioters with, again, tear gas and pepper spray, as well as pepper balls and shotgun-propelled beanbag rounds in order to intimidate and disperse them. And these communities have, conversely, received widespread condemnation for their decisions in this regard. On behalf of the members of Occupy Chattanooga and its supporters, who will please all stand if they're able, I'm here to inform you and to announce our intention to peaceably assemble and occupy the green space adjacent to Ross's Landing, to erect tents and temporary shelters, and to remain there as long as is necessary to fully express our discontent at the government's involvement in corporate politics and the police repression which has followed it against our other protests across the country. We are asking the City Council to give their consent to this occupation, although it is our fixed intent to do so at the conclusion of this meeting. In doing so, we know that Chattanooga will be enrolled on the list of all those other communities I've mentioned who are at the forefront of defending their citizens' civic rights and freedoms of freedom of speech, and they will receive widespread praise for doing so. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, and I appreciate that you acknowledged the group that was here. And I'm going to ask now that the lady that's taking pictures in this 4th row, you can go to the media box, but do not take another picture from your seat, because I asked you not to do that in front of the meeting. Yes, ma'am. Please give us your name and address, and you'll have 3 moments.
I'm Talitha McJunkin. My address. I'm a 42-year-old mother of 2 boys, 17 and 23. I know many of you on the council, and your daughter, actually. I have a bachelor's degree in social work and a master's degree in public administration. I have worked in the local nonprofit sector for about 20 years, but have never been too plugged into politics because my participation did not seem to matter. I would receive form letters from anybody that I tried to write, with the exception of Peter Murphy that I wrote last year. Thank you very much. The scales fell from my eyes when I started researching the extent to which corporations run this country through legalized bribery of publicly elected officials. About that time, Occupy Wall Street began. It turns out The rage I feel at this injustice is shared by hundreds of thousands of other people around the globe. Now that it's been several weeks and occupations around the country are organizing, another, more pressing issue has risen to the top: the active suppression of our First Amendment rights. A few communities that get way too much press are trying to silence our voices by force and intimidation. Many other communities are choosing to uphold the First Amendment rights of their citizens through cooperation with occupiers. Cities across the nation are opening their eyes to the unusual circumstances and nature of this movement. It is not your normal run-of-the-mill protest. It is much, much different. It is nothing they or we have ever seen before. It has literally spread around the globe in less than 2 months and continues to grow each and every day. The First Amendment rights of our people trump any law as mundane as a curfew. These are exceptional times that truly call for exceptional, out of the box, not what you're used to solutions. Why can't you protest between the hours of 8 and 6? I'm glad you asked this. This is what is in the hearts and minds of occupiers across the globe. Before demands come, before protracted struggles and campaigns over specific political, economic, or environmental policies begin, before the Occupy movement succeeds in turning the tide of the corporate state back toward communities and the common good, it needs a home, a place to put down roots and grow the movement, a place to reclaim the commons, and not just in theory, but in actual, physically manifested ways that say,
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm sorry that your time is up. Thank you.
That is truly astounding.
Well, that's what the clock is telling us. See a light. Councilman McGeary, do you wish to be acknowledged?
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we give her 2 additional minutes.
Do not clap out loud. We have a motion to allow 2 more minutes to this speaker. Is there a second to that motion?
I second.
All right, let's have a roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Rico,
Yes.
Councilman McGarry,
Yes.
Councilman Murphy,
Aye.
Councilwoman Scott,
Yes.
Councilwoman Robinson,
Yes.
Councilman Benson,
Yes.
Councilman Gilbert,
Yes.
Councilwoman Byrd, yes. Chairman Bag.
No. Motion carries. You have 2 more. Actually, we'll have to do, I think, Randy, you have to do your watch hand, don't you? Because the clock up here is set for 3. You can do it for 2? You can do it for 2. All right. These are your lights up here, and the yellow light will flash when you're down to just a few seconds, so that will help you know where you are.
I bet your office is very organized.
Thank you.
So, a place to reclaim the commons, and not just in theory, but in actual physically manifested ways that say we are here to stay. There's no more business and politics as usual. Now it's our turn to have self-determination and self-governance. What about public safety and sanitation issues? These are the details. These are things that are actually negotiable. An agreeable solution that is beneficial to all can easily be achieved if all parties are invested. We are not a social group that wants to camp out for free on public land. Most of us work every single day, first and or second shift. It would be a serious limit on our First Amendment rights because we could not be there during the hours of operation. We are a group of total strangers that have found each other through a common passion for true, lasting justice and equality in this country. For us to even begin having that conversation, we need a physical space. We don't live together. How cool would it be if Chattanooga became the model city for cooperation with citizen occupiers? How cool would it be to put the vast amount of local knowledge we have about sustainable practices to work, solving the very real problems occupiers are facing? Solutions sought together could minimize the cost to taxpayers, ensure the safety of the occupiers and citizens, and provide the opportunity to develop innovative green solutions for sustainable practices that don't use public resources. We are deeply passionate and committed to this. We are analysts and salespeople and lawyers and students, the unemployed and factory workers and police officers, firefighters and teachers. We are actually you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Andrew, the third speaker, if you will give us your name and address, and you'll have 3 moments.
My name is Patricia Bazemore. My address is... First of all, I want to say I do not represent Occupy Chattanooga. I am involved with them. We are a loosely organized group of individuals. I think there are very many people who came here tonight just as citizens, as members of this community that came here to speak, and I think you do us a disservice by limiting us to 3 people. They did not support my speech. I did not have it approved by anybody. None of us represents the group. We all represent our own individual feelings, and I think a lot of people came here to express their support of it. So I definitely want to voice that as well. Also, the stuff you have pulled up on the screen, the city attorney said himself, those are guidelines. That's guidance. Just as Miles said at the beginning, you guys have a choice. There's been a precedent set. There's been judges that have been supporting this as our First Amendment rights, as the tool of redressing our grievances. Right now, this is an unprecedented time. This is front page news all over the country, all over the world. This is a huge movement that's happening. And the reason why it's required right now is because we have taken every other means. We have done daily protests. We have done marches. We have done petitions. We have tried to organize online. We have done those things, and we have been absolutely ineffective at mounting any sort of real change, because right now 70% of the financial assets in this world, in this country, are held by 1% of the people. We don't have power unless we're given the ability to organize, to redress, demand a redress of those grievances. Right now, this is how we are able to demand a redress of our grievances. If we don't have the power to do that, you are stepping on our First Amendment rights. This is your choice. You are not bound by that on that screen. You have a choice to protect our rights here. This is way more important than a curfew. Just as she said before, you guys had a very, very good reason for setting that curfew. It was for the greater good of the community. You have a very, very good reason to support us now and to support these rights that were put into place. Like she said, those were put into place before we came to you. This First Amendment was put into place. These things were put into place before that curfew went into place. These things are much more important. You don't have to just allow anybody to be violent in the park because we're there protesting and we're demanding a redress of our grievances. We have to be given the tools to organize. We don't need a place to camp. We need a place to organize. I work every day. We need to be able to set up communication tents. We need to be able to have people come in and go as they are able to, and we need to have that set up. We can't disassemble every night and reassemble every day and really be able to demand a redress of our grievances. We don't have the power unless you guys support us. We need you now. When this started in New York, I wanted to pack up my children and drive to New York. I have worked 60 hours to 50 hours a week my entire working career. This is very important to a lot of us here, way more than what's represented here. There were people when we were protesting on the street driving by honking their horns all day long because they know how important this is to our country. And we're depending on you guys. We need your support. We won't give up. You can arrest us tonight. We'll come back tomorrow. The whole country will hear about this. We need your support. Please support us.
That's it. I'm sorry. Thank you. You've been very professional, extremely polite. We appreciate your participation. Are there others that want to address the council on other issues that are not related to this? I'll recognize a light from our city attorney.
I heard someone say that they were planning on using what I guess we generally call the green down on Ross's Landing. You know, one of the rules that we've adopted is that other people have a right, and that space has already been reserved. So if you all go down there, you're already impinging on someone else's right. We would suggest to you that a more appropriate forum that's still very much public would be Coolidge Park, and that is not reserved. What you need to do tomorrow is call 311 and they will give you a permit to use Coolidge Park, but I'm sure they're not going to be able to give you a permit to use the green because that park is already in use. It's already been reserved, starting tomorrow. And for those of you who might be willing to follow our park regulations, I will put a set of them outside. I've got 25 copies. Please take them and read them. We would ask, do you follow the law? Some of you said that's what you want to do. We would ask you to do so.
Councilman Benson.
I want to amen what the city attorney and you have said. I'm all this council, very sympathetic with you, all of them. I've got a grandson that's, he's not here tonight, he's taking a class at university, but he's been with you in this. You've got, as I told him, you've got to obey the law. If not, you're going to be counterproductive. You're going to be more harmful to your cause, and you've got a great cause. I've been around here longer than all of you, nearly. I've seen government change from power from the people to power to the money. That's what it's coming down to. Campaign contributions, it takes tremendous amount to run, even at a local office. And it's hard for those people to give, all those people that give so much money and time to a campaign, to not listen to them. And I know the federal government's really caught up in this. But maybe you will get attention and get this back out of the hands of power of the money and power to the people. But you're not going to succeed by breaking any laws in Chattanooga. Set a good example. Our police system here, our police officers, they're with you until you break the law. And then they're going to have to step in. So the law is you can't camp out overnight on public property. If you got some private property, you can. That's what they're doing in New York. That's owned individually there. But don't attempt to do it where all the public owns it, and we've got to have laws and ordinances to protect all the public. Those that even disagree with you need to be protected, as you do too. So we'll be with you as long as you obey the law. And then you will force us to have to do things that we don't want to do. Those weren't very smart people in Oakland if they pushed it to that point, and they weren't very smart policemen. We got smart policemen here, and I believe you all have judgment and the intelligence to know that you've got to obey the law, and you'll keep all of us with you. Thank you.
Councilman McGarry.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you all who have come tonight. This has to be easily one of the most difficult decisions that I have faced as a council person. And certainly I want to suggest to each and every one of you that I appreciate the candor, I appreciate the honesty, I appreciate the sincerity. We all are upset for various reasons. We all are disappointed, whether we're in office or whether we sit out in the audience. Each and every one of us want more from our government. I, for one, certainly do. And am willing to do what is necessary, whether in elected office or otherwise, to see that come about. However, I believe a brief course through history will prove that every single protest movement that has existed in the world, not just the United States of America, in the world, that was serious, and by serious I mean individuals who had claims that they believed were larger than life, and they were willing to give their lives for their cause. They always exhausted every legal option first. And only when every legal option was exhausted did they take matters into their own hands. Yes, there have been people, Dr. Martin Luther King and others, perhaps a more recent example, that gladly broke the law and were guilty of civil disobedience, but paid the consequences for it. But he will tell you, if he were here today, that he and the civil rights movement, the Southern leadership movement, and all of those that were affiliated with them exhausted every legal option. My suggestion to you would be, out of sincerity and out of love I say this, to be in the position of saying we have exhausted every legal option. And if you have done that, and you find on any given level that some administrator or some person with authority has denied you by a permit process, as you have heard our city attorney address, then and only then would I be able to say that there is something amiss here and we need to supersede what has been written. But I cannot say that knowing that there is already an effort to say, regardless of what is written, we are going to do otherwise. Unfortunately, I do not think that that is an approach that your forebears, your protesting forebears, your protesting forefathers would smile on if they were here today. They would expect more of you. I believe we all expect more of you. Your protest in of itself does not lack credential. It does not lack substance. No one here is saying that. What it is saying it is lacking is going through the proper legal channels first. After you do so, please, let's continue to have a conversation. I am willing to continue. This is not the end of our conversation. I hope this is only the first. And that we will continue together, because we are not against you any more than we believe you are against us. We are in this together. And I hope together we can foresee and we can work together to see a conclusion. Thank you.
I see no more discussion lights from the council, and no one else has come forward to speak on another issue. Yes, sir, your name and address, please. 3 minutes.
My name is Joel Tibbin. I live in Tennessee. I would like to address to the council another matter, which is limiting to 3 speakers on any matter before the council. I would ask that tonight you would waive that and give an open mic to anyone here who wants to speak on any issue, including the matters concerning Occupy Chattanooga. That limiting that subject or any subject to only 3 speakers at 3 minutes at a time seems unfair. Thank you.
Thank you. If it's Councilman McGarry.
Madam Chair, I know that there have been similar requests made in the past, and I know that we can officially adjourn, or we can officially table this meeting, or I know there's another term, City Attorney, you can help me in regards to where we don't officially close the meeting, but we continue it until the next meeting. I forget the term, but it's a legal term. Recess, thank you, sir. We can put this meeting in recess where individuals and council persons who wish to stay can. Those who wish to go will not. I'm willing to stay all night and listen if necessary. I do know again that as regards to our rules, as stated, I would ask our city attorney to briefly explain why it is we limit individuals in regards to 3 minutes or a number of speakers in regard to any speech.
Well, any deliberative society, in order to control its proceedings, must adopt reasonable rules and regulations so that they can properly handle the people's business. And they often do meet following the regular meeting agenda with people who have particular grievances. And that's another reason why we try to close our meetings at a reasonable hour.
And I asked for the limit of 3 because it's been my experience that when it gets beyond that, we get redundant information, and it doesn't serve to give us any additional information to consider. And I think it's appropriate. That's how we handle our zoning cases, and that's how I, as chair, have decided to handle large groups as they come in, to keep it within reason and to keep the information fresh and non-redundant. So thank you for your concern. Sir, do you have a different issue that you would like to address with us tonight?
It's slightly different, ma'am. It's relevant, but it doesn't exactly follow everything that we've already discussed.
Okay, come forward. You'll give us your name and address, but now if we do get into redundancy, I will ask you to stop.
My name's John Essex. I wear hearing aids. I'm disabled. I may not have heard everything that was said tonight. I did hear Ms. Robinson early on request that the people that were here to discuss Occupy movement to not ask the city to allow or make any kind of a request to endorse any kind of a illegal action. I think I heard that correctly. Did I now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm a citizen of the United States. I was born in Vermont, and I've been enjoying my residency here in the city of Chattanooga since 1992, so I feel comfortable calling Chattanooga home. My understanding is that the Constitution of the United States is the supreme law of the land, and that the government of people has been formulated through the Constitution and is expressed through the executive offices and the legislative offices, as well as judicial offices. Our fine city attorney, Mr. Mann, has explained the law, and we've had the legislative body express a request on the legislative point of view. There's no executive officer present that I know of. And my point would be that in terms of the separation of powers, is it possible under the Constitution for a legislative body to assert that a judicial basis for restricting citizen participation in a public forum, can those conditions be set out prior to anybody having anything to say about it? And that's the question that I'm presenting to y'all tonight. And to answer from a citizen's perspective, the main thing I would like to ask the city is the city of Chattanooga, through its legislative body, willing to endorse through its own activity an endeavor to support the Constitution of the United States? Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you. Sir, please step forward in your name and address.
My name is Abdullah Yakin with We the People. I am from Cleveland, Ohio.
And your exact address, sir?
Ohio.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. We're here in Tennessee. We're trying to qualify an issue for the ballot. It's called Americans Elect. We're trying to educate the community. We need 80,000 signatures to qualify an issue for the ballot. We're having problems with, this gentleman just so eloquently spoke about the law enforcement here not trumping over our fundamental rights to petition the government. It's a constitutional right, and we're having problems with having access to the public because certain organizations like Walmart and other places that they're sitting on properties that's owned by other establishments are using a trespass law against us. We're federally mandated through the Pruneyard ruling that would allow us to have access to private property whenever we're doing something dealing with the election process. Registering people to vote is imperative for the 2012 presidential election, that we get a chance to make sure that anybody who has a name change, moved, and all the different restrictions and the different things that you guys have put in the law here in Tennessee with the IDs and things of that nature. So it's imperative for us to be able to speak to the community, but we're being denied that. So I was coming to speak because I've called different organizations through City Hall trying to be able to report on officers who use bully tactics on us, with big businesses like Walmart, billion-dollar entities who are using the police to intimidate us. I'm intimidated by a person with a gun and a taser telling me that if I don't leave the property from registering people to vote, this is how sad it has come. And I heard you, Mr. McGarry, speak about what you want us to do, but the law of the land has said what it would allow us to do. But then you have small government agencies within the United States making their own interpretation of the Constitution. I have a copy right here. So I'm very cognizant. I can read. I know that I have the right to assemble. I know that my tax dollars paid for the sidewalk. I know that I don't have a curfew because I'm not a kid. So if I want to stand on that sidewalk because of my tax dollars allowed me to pay for it, then I can stand there as long as I want to. What law am I breaking? So these are the questions that we're asking City Hall, and we would love for you guys to engage us. And I see that the Attorney General for the city is here. I would love to speak with you after the council. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You stand here.
Excuse me, I I didn't realize we had the opportunity to respond back, and I really wanted to respond to something Andre McGarry said. We did go to the Parks and Recreation Service. She was given the opportunity to respond. I would appreciate that as well. We did go to the Parks and Recreation Service, and we did try to get a permit. We've been trying to do everything that we can to stay within the law and to work with you guys. We did go to Parks and Recreation, and there were no permits that fell within our needs. There were no permits that would allow us to stay beyond the curfew. We did so. We've been talking to lawyers. We've been talking to the ACLU. We have been trying to do everything we can within the law. And I can't believe you can disrespect me and allow everyone to come back and not allow me to stay alive.
You can adjourn and still sit there and listen like he's a human being. Thank you for those of you that did. That was very great. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you.
Shame on you. Shame on all of you.
You're here to change this. We're here to help you learn how to change it. You got a big job ahead of you. That's my girl. That's awesome. So glad to hear it. That gives me hope. I think you're good.